We'll call the Selectmen's meeting for February 24th, 2014 to order. First order of business is approve the previous meeting's minutes.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as read. Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes from the previous meeting as read. All those in favor? In favor? Opposed? Financials before the warrants, $171,055.11. Warrant of $4,471.62. Payroll warrant of $735.07, leaving a balance of $165,848.42. Moving on to old business foreclosure bids. We received 4 bids on a piece on the Centerville Road. The only piece that was didn't get paid. We had 4 bids for property at 4 -010-363 Centerville Road. We have a bid from Jerry Blackburn for $207. We have a bid for $801 from Michael R. Bailey. We have a bid from John Parsons of Harrington of $837. We have a bid from Wendell Rockwell for $1,700. Your pleasure.
I'll move we accept the hedge.
That would be the bid from Wendell Rockwell for $1,700. Been moved and seconded to accept the bid from Wendell Rockwell for $1,700. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed. Guess you'll own a piece of property soon.
But I need my piece. What do I just do, pay the town office, bring the check?
Yep. Yep. Next item is, you want to move all up into this section, taking out of order. All petitions, we'll take Dick Paul at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Selectman. I'm Richard Paul, and I am from Madison, and I am hoping to be able to continue the work that Peter Doak has started in the legislature next year. If you haven't heard, he's not going to be attending anything. I have stated my name. And in the process of doing this, became aware of the situation regarding the county jail and the... Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, want me to go stand down there?
No, she's going to turn off the wall.
Okay. And I became aware of the situation of the county jail and the Down East Corrections Facility. And I don't know whether or not you've seen in the newspapers or not, but Commissioner Pont of the Corrections Commission is proposing that the Down East Corrections Facility be closed and that all county jails become integrated into one statewide, in other words, the county jails, that he's proposing that the county jails be taken over by the state. And the Selectmen in East Metropolis have taken it upon themselves to start a petition to see if they can get support from the towns that to oppose this action by Commissioner Pont. And I stand here today encouraging you to consider that and look at it in detail. And I would sincerely like to have you support that, both as a candidate for the state legislature and as a citizen of Washington County. I think it's important that we stand up for what we have here in Washington County. And there is essentially no expense to this. It's just a petition that selectmen from East Machias may take with them when they meet with the commissioner or when they meet with committees and things like that in Augusta as they go forward with as the headliners for trying to encourage the state not to follow through with these proposed actions. I, as a hopefully legislator next year, this is the type of stuff that I would like to see coming forward from the citizens, and have the support of a number of towns. That would make my job a whole lot easier if I'm elected. And I'm not sure if you have a copy of those two petitions before you or not, but I'll leave these with you. And thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Paul. When would you like to have this back?
It's requested that it be returned to the Selectmen of each side, not to me.
Okay.
They're the ones that I picked put this.
And did they say when?
I think on the bottom,
Or does it say on the bottom?
I'm not sure it says exactly right. That's on the back of that one. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. I should probably look at it.
Doesn't give a time when they'd like to have it
I'm sure they would appreciate it
as soon as possible.
as soon as possible. And if you want to give it more consideration, I'm sure they would be available to come to you also.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the Washington County Council of Government.
Tony brought in things for you that I sent in your mail for you to consider. So you need to make a decision as to if you want to pay those dues or do. So you got that in your boxes and in your mail. Tony. I think that was 2 weeks ago mail. Isn't it, Tony?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Right after the meeting, he brought it in. I sent it out.
It was $250, correct?
It was $250.
It's now
$362 next
$362.
year.
Tony, you think it would be in our best interest to continue?
My feelings, and as I think I've stated in that letter, in one of the pages, if we are proactive as a town and take advantage of what they offer, then I think we should stay with it. But if we have no intentions of ever using them for, and there's a list of things that they will do for us that I've given you, then we shouldn't pay it. It's like anything else. If we're not going to use it, let's not pay it. But I believe that they can be helpful if we approach them and try to use their services. So, that's my take on it.
Okay.
If you look at that last page, of all the towns listed, and of course it's based on population, I found, Tony and I, for the last, 2 or 3 years, have attended almost all of these meetings. We didn't make the last one.
No, we missed one.
But it's amazing to see all those towns that are contributing much more than we are, and will, that don't even bother to attend.
And one of the things that it's in that package is, I noticed that stood out to me, is that Columbia, Maine, I've never seen anybody attend, but yet they've got a $10,000, some kind of a grant or fee, money that this group has got for them to put in an oil burner or something for the town. And, but there's a list of, I mean, the fire station in Jonesport, for instance, was a big part of this, was paid for by this group and helped them with the funding.
I asked
Rogues
at
Bluff, same thing.
one of our firehouse consolidation meetings, I asked the Selectmen in Columbia, I said, you're a member of the Washington County Council of Government? Oh, yes, have been, quite some time. I said, I never see anybody there. Well, we don't feel it's necessary to send anybody. We know that it's available when we want it.
Yeah. Louis Pinkham is, if you noticed in that write-up, where the money goes, a lot of it goes to Millbridge because he really is proactive. He goes after it. And I can't stress enough to say, and I believe it was in there, something to the effect that the planning board is one that really needs to be proactive in going after this. And they will send people here. They will, to help and guide the town in any way they can. Another thing is they hold training classes for instance, we just hired a, what's the kid we just hired? Was the
CEO.
CEO, excuse me. We just hired a CEO, and they hold training classes for town CEOs, so he doesn't have to go to Augusta or Portland or wherever. They'll do it right here somewhere in Washington County. That's just one of the things. But again, if we don't use them, why pay the $200 or $300? We have to take advantage of it. We have to be proactive.
It says that Columbia got $20,630 to install a waste oil burner at the transfer station.
Yeah, that was it. Rogues Bluff got quite a big sum for a fire station.
$50,000 to construct sidewalks.
Cherryfield sidewalks, that was all paid, all through their help, federal money that was out there that Cherryfield wouldn't have ever gotten. They got the money to put the sidewalks.
Yeah, our streets aren't wide enough to have sidewalks.
And I don't think you have to make a decision tonight on it. That's something for you to think about. What's the time frame?
Well, the billing date was January 22nd, so it's already been a month
Oh,
since
heck
we've had it.
yeah.
Joel, do you think that that's something the planning board could utilize?
Maybe if we knew anything about when to go and what's going on. I mean, we haven't had anything noted for any meetings to come up for almost a year.
Probably would be a good idea if we continue to have somebody from your planning board going to those meetings.
That girl about the mapping, she's going to get that to me. I haven't heard it yet from her.
She hasn't heard back. Oh, that's right.
I don't know what's going on.
Something like that, Phil, if they, you were expecting that lady to get back to you, just let Bun and I know, and we can track her down and talk to the people that need to be talked to and get them in touch with her.
Anything?
Yeah.
$362, not a lot of money.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we pay the $362, that's for 1 year membership.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded to pay a $362 due fee for a 1 year membership to Washington County Council of Governments. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.
And one more quick question. I have to put 2 people on the form, an elected official and a resident. Are they going to remain 2 that we have?
You better put someone else as an elected official.
Okay.
I would recommend that you have Tony on that.
Are you still interested in?
Unless somebody wants to do it, I'd gladly step back, but if nobody wants to step up to the plate, I'll take it.
What does that mean, once a month?
Bi-monthly, every 2 months or so. It's sporadic sometimes, but at least every 2 months or so.
And don't get into, if you happen to go the first one or two and they provide your meal, don't think that it happens every time. Because we fell into that trap. They provided free meals for 2 or 3 times, and then he and I came in late and
Had a nice meal.
had a nice meal, got up and left, and we were supposed to have paid.
The Bluebird Ranch tracked me down. I just walked.
Advantages of coming in late.
Right.
I'll take
Okay, so we'll put that out, we'll be paid.
Right to know policy.
I put in your, did I put them in your packet? No, I didn't. The copier was down most of the day. It didn't get fixed until the very end of the day. I will, I have here what I pulled up in the state regulations. I'll put it in your boxes. Most of the changes I've mentioned already, changing the fee from $10 to $15 for research. The copies, I mean, I have the state statutes right here. So I had it all together, but like I said, the copier, I didn't think I'd have anything done. But you can, because a lot of what we have is, you know, requests don't have to be in writing. You do have to notify people if their bills are going to be over a certain amount, and that's all very clear in the state statutes, and I think it would be just easiest if we followed what the state guidelines were.
Well, look at the state statute and act on it at the next meeting.
Yes.
I make a motion that we defer action on this until the following meeting, once we've had a chance to look at the
I'll
state
second that.
Been moved and seconded to act on this at the next regularly scheduled meeting. All those in favor? Three in favor, none opposed. Any other old business?
Just letter from management representation letter to Jim Wadman by somebody. I asked Jim Wadman if we did better this year, even a little bit, and he said definitely, much improved than last year. So that was nice to hear.
I thought his report was good.
And that he did it on the same day as the audit, I guess, is
Yep.
pretty good. So we were pleased with that.
Any problem with me going ahead and signing this?
Read it.
And just a reminder that you have your meeting. I will post that with Karen on March 3rd at 3 o'clock to go over. Her lawyer will be here and Charlie Gilbert will be here.
Riley has had a copy of this, he knows what he's...
I'm not positive. I believe he has. I believe they've been in contact with him. He's out of town right now. He had his first new grandbaby. Karen is out of town, so that's why it couldn't happen until sooner. But I do believe they've been in contact.
That's the way I took it, that they had been.
Okay, I'll make copies. Along with the other MMA guidelines and suggestions.
We'll go on to the March calendar and then go back to that. We'll move on to the March calendar.
I did speak with Philip today about the planning board meeting because that would be on the 18th. And he said that just unless something comes up, just won't have one.
If we need to come in something, we can meet and take care of it.
Courtney is available for the town meeting, should we so choose.
Any problems with that you can see? I make a motion that we approve the town office calendar for March 2014 as written.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the town office calendar for March 2014. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.
I do have copies of your warrant article submissions and proposals. Right, Dave? Those articles were written, approved by Columbia as they were written?
Yes. Well, they've been submitted to Columbia. I don't know if they've been approved by the It's basically the same set of articles for both towns created by the consolidation committee. A little bit different setup that we have to look at because their budget's an all-in-one budget, whereas ours is spread out. There's fire department, building, salary, well, actually there's salary separately. And insurance is a separate budget in ours, whereas their budget pays for it. So the one on financing recommended amount is something probably explained in greater detail what the budget would be from what I like.
Now, the second article here, to see if the town will choose a selectman and 2 citizens to serve on the board of directors for the Epping Volunteer Fire Department if the merger is approved by Columbia and Columbia Falls. That's to be at a later date.
Well, it would be nice if we could offer it up. One of the intentions of putting that at the town meeting was it was probably more likely to capture the interest of more people, but it's, whether you decide to choose them then or later, we thought it would be important to bring it up at the time.
But it doesn't say elect, it says choose.
Well, and the reason we said choose is because that's up to the town. The town decides how they want to go about that. We didn't want to dictate to a town to say that they had to elect or they could appoint or what have you. So we used the word choose.
Well, you're more involved with this than I have, so what do you, what's your thoughts?
Excuse me. Looks fine to me. Yes, it over a lot.
Two separate budgets, or will the budget be the same if incorporated or it doesn't go through?
Well, in the case of Columbia, it was very simple because their budget is all in one. So they approved a budget that essentially met or exceeded, half of the proposed entry budget. In our case, it's a different animal, and I'm a little confused as how we should word that. Because we have the fire department budget, and we have the expense of building. We have the insurance on the apparatus and equipment, and so how we capture that, again, really is up to you guys.
So
I
we've
would
got,
imagine that you almost have to put in 2 different numbers because of the way we do
Right.
this in that warrant. Two different suggestions.
well, the number for the incorporation would include lights,
Right.
insurance,
We're
that
not,
type of stuff.
yeah, and that's the thing is that those costs don't go away with us. We still have to insure the apparatus and the equipment. We have to heat that other end of the building over there, whether we're there as or consolidated. And our estimates are a little high because we're afraid of propane prices and what it's really going to cost. We've heard different stories over the years. Haven't heard of gallonage or pounds or whatever, we've heard prices, and that's all subject to change. So
Right.
whether you're spending $4,500 a year at the old building down here or $4,000, let's say, over there in heat, it's pretty much the same thing. So we submitted copies of the proposed Epping budget, and of course we can go into great detail of that tomorrow night, unless you want to.
Tomorrow night's fine.
Thanks.
I will pull up tomorrow the figures of what it cost us to run that building last year. If you want
Okay.
the
Yep.
meeting tab for tomorrow night,
Yep.
it would help a little bit with comparison.
No problem with, should we vote, do we need to vote on those, or just? Vote on them, I suppose they gotta be written that way, don't they?
Yeah.
second that motion. Been moved and seconded to accept these articles for the town warrant as written. All those in favor? Three in favor, none opposed. Ordinance for the recall of elected municipal officials, I don't think we can consider that. We've got to have meetings and hearings and all kinds of things. I think we have to do that according to the rules of setting up an ordinance. We'd like to have some public meetings and some informational meetings.
We have special meetings for that.
I believe you do, if you're doing an ordinance. And then it would have to be voted on it at a town meeting, whether special or regular, I believe.
Where do you find that information?
Your name. I'm gonna go get the book. We change policies, but I don't think you can ordinances. I'm almost positive, but I can go get the book.
Well, there was one, the whole idea was this because planning board was left on here. Right. Let's see, this was state treasurer's selectors. Next one is the planning board wasn't on it before.
That warrant you just voted on, approved, that was just for the fire?
That was for those three articles.
Oh, okay.
Three articles.
Policy adopted by the municipal officers is something different from an ordinance or regulation. Municipal officers are limited in their ability to pass ordinances. You can oversee the maintenance of the ordinances. The expression of the will of the people is performed by the government's legislative branch, and for Maine municipalities with a town meeting form of government, the town meeting is the legislative branch. Except for some very limited activities prescribed by state law, the municipal officers under a town meeting form of government may not legislate. That job is given to the registered voters of the town when convened in the town meeting forum. I don't see anything where it says about how you must.
Am I right to interpret that as saying that they have to be the ones that create an ordinance, or give the final okay for the creation of
Give
an
the
ordinance?
final okay.
Yeah.
I don't see anything on the petition that states what the grounds for removal from office or recall would be. Would it be because the person didn't show up to a certain number of meetings? Would it, what would the reason be? You don't show up to a meeting, you haven't broken any laws, but, I mean, it seems so that stuff would have to be stated in the ordinance. Maybe it doesn't have to be, I don't know, but it seems so. You should have some guidelines in there. I mean,
Ordinances enacted by legislative body require 7 days' notice by posting for enactment or revision by the legislative body of the municipality. The ordinance or revision can be included as part of an article in the warrant or posted with the warrant as a separate attachment. all I'm saying right off the top of my head.
Doesn't really say how it's supposed to be
Says
done.
in C on 3,
Hmm?
section 3, paragraph 3, section C.
Petition shall state the name and office of the person whose removal is being sought and a general statement of the reason such removal is desired.
Right.
But our ordinance doesn't have to say, have any reasons in it. Is that what you're saying? It's stated,
If I brought a complaint against you, I'd have to put my statement down on what I got to complain about.
MMA recommends while recall may be appropriate in some cases, it's not necessarily the right response to every political dispute. If your community is considering a recall ordinance or charter provision, we recommend that the number of petition signatures required be set as high enough to prevent a small minority from forcing frivolous or repetitive recall elections. We also recommend that the petition not be required to cite a specific reason for the recall. That could inadvertently convert what is essentially a political discussion into a due process proceeding, complete with potential for court appeal.
Do they give you an idea of how high that should be set?
I think I read at least 20% of your registered voters, but I have to be... And it also, I saw where you have to be very careful with some of your municipal officers because an elected or appointed official may be considered an employee for certain purposes, such as under personnel ordinance, policy under certain laws, IRS laws, wages, hours, workers' comp. And employee discipline is entirely different than official recall. There's a lot to consider.
who brought this one in?
Phillips.
Planning board. This is the third time it's been presented to the town.
Third time it's been presented, have you taken it to the town meeting?
No, turned it into the town clerk, and they never went any further with it.
Oh, it never went any further.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen? What do you think?
And Nancy wasn't town clerk.
I see no reason why not to let the people decide on this. You?
No, not really.
Hear that as a motion.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to allow ordinance for the recall of elected municipal officials to go on the town meeting warrant. All those in favor? All those opposed? 2 in favor, 1 opposed. Next articles. Following 3 warrant articles are proposed to the Selectmen for inclusion in the annual town meeting warrant for the town meeting in March 2014. To see if the town will vote to require state law regarding applying for and expending of grant money to always be followed by any town committee or group when applying for or expending grant money.
John, you submitted this?
I I did, excuse me.
Uh,
Would you like to know why?
I have a question over that first that he just read. To see if the town would vote to require state law, regarding applying for and spending of grant money to always be followed by any town committee or group when applying for or expending grant money. Has this ever happened? Has this happened contrary to the state law?
In my opinion, yes.
Oh.
And I only suggested that for the protection of the town, because if grant money is not spent according to state law, the grantor may ask to have that money returned. And it puts the town at great risk. And the town shouldn't be put at that risk.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would Mr. Tibbetts like to tell us when this incident happened or how it come about?
I am not sure in the past that we have, as the town has always followed state law. For example, and I think you're familiar with the way grants have been expended by the town, and let me see if I got it here. Well, I can tell you from memory, but I can't tell you the exact dates. Muriel Smith, when she was administrative assistant, town clerk, and so on, asked that the question of Maine Municipal Association, and Rebecca Warren Steele, who is a senior staff attorney for MMA, replied to her that the town meeting has to approve an application for grant money. In other words, if we were going to apply for grant money to renovate this room, the town meeting would have to approve that. And the town office, that money would have to be expended through the town treasury, and it would have to be expended at the approval of the selectmen in each instance. But I mean, that was very specific, and I do remember that, because I remember Muriel and I discussing that, and I do remember how very careful she was in checking up on those things.
What's your pleasure on the first article, gentlemen?
Shouldn't we be following state law anyway,
I would think so.
if it's state law?
I don't see any harm in putting it in there, but is there really a need for it?
We received a grant for town hall, maybe more than one. We've gotten money for the library, but I don't know if that was a grant. That was a gift, wasn't it? One of each?
Yeah, the grant and the gift.
Okay.
Boiler.
Got the boiler.
Alan?
Yes. Yes.
the grants for the union/town hall, provided by the grant writer, all the information, and they have to follow, the grant writer that we hire at a fee follows up all the grant requirements with them now. So that I'm sure it's followed up on, and the grant tour has no, we have never had one issue at all with the grant.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
isn't pretty much one of our last articles in our town book each year for the selectmen to accept and expend monies on behalf of the town?
I don't know if we had that in, do we have that in there last year? It's been in there
The
for
last
several
one.
years.
The last one.
I mean,
don't think,
I would think that would cover it. I mean, but that's just me being a layperson and not a lawyer.
Mr. Chairman, and also all those funds go channel through you for approval. And I kind of have to agree with Bun, I really don't see any need for any change.
I do know that the state law requires the money to go through the town treasury, and I think in the past, in some instances, it has not always, that has not always been done. It's gone through a private account of the committee or whatever, and I don't believe that's legal, according to state law. All that is asking is that the state law be followed, and my thinking in providing that to you was, if that were a town policy, then it would just simply alert people to know what the law is and follow it when they were applying for grants.
What do you think, gentlemen, yes or no?
My thought is, if it's state law, we should be following it. No question.
You want to make it on a motion?
No, I don't really think. Shouldn't have to put it in there. I mean, does this really have to go in? I mean, if this has to go in, we've got problems. I mean, we've got problems, but I mean, you know, I wouldn't think. Just gonna have to be more vigilant about making sure that things go the way they're supposed to go. I mean, it's a question. So, I just think it's pretty shameful if we need to put something like that in and it's already state law.
I agree. I make a motion that we not put this article in the town warrant.
I'll second it, but only by the fact that shouldn't have to be in there.
Moved and seconded, not to include this particular article in the town warrant. All those in favor?
I hope they haven't got very many articles.
All in favor? None opposed. Next one, to see if the town will vote to require all monetary transactions by any and all committees of the town of Columbia Falls to be done through the treasury of the town of Columbia Falls. This is to say no monies may be held in or expended from a private committee account, since transparency and proper record keeping are necessary under state and federal freedom of access legislation. This article is to take effect immediately if it is approved by the town meeting.
I thought the 150th committee were told that that had to happen.
If you wanted insurance to cover your activities.
Oh, so it can happen if you ignore insurance?
Right. That was the MMA's explanation, to have a fund, have the committee go through the town so that it was part of the town. You could have a playground committee out on their own, taking care of their own funds, but if they wanted to have an activity, it wouldn't be covered under town insurance. Somebody would have to put their own insurance on it.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to explain?
Yes.
I am suggesting this article to you because I think all committees should be treated the same. And in the recent freedom of access request to the town of Columbia Falls for the financial records of the Recreation Committee, which is or is not disbanded, perhaps not, because they still have, or at least in last year's town report, they still have $1 credited to them. That request was denied by the town of Columbia Falls, access to it, and an assistant state attorney general suggested that probably the town of Columbia Falls should have some policies regarding the expenditure of money. The Recreation Committee used the town's EIN number, used the town's tax number. The town raised money for that committee, and that committee was audited each year by the town auditor. And still it is considered by the town to be a private group, and that was my reason for submitting this to you, because I think we ought to be willing, if we're going to have a committee, we ought to be forthcoming and willing to show the monies we've raised and or that the town has raised and what we've done with it.
There, I can see some value to that. If that money is being dealt with by our auditor and it does appear in the town book, then that committee should answer to the town, in my opinion.
That account was closed last July. I've done a great deal of work and have spoken with the Attorney General's office. I've talked with Brenda Kelsey many times. Spent hours and hours on this account, over 14 so far. She told me, because I received this request, she's going to be sending a letter. And because when I saw this request, I asked her if she had written that letter, because this appeared that she'd given her recommendation. And she said her only concern was the right to know. Her job was not to recommend how any town should operate their funds. She was only concerned with the right-to-know request. She was very upset that somebody had quoted her as saying that was her, and was willing to talk to anybody she needed to clarify that. I spoke with her this afternoon because recent research, from a letter from the bank, says that these documents do not exist. I sent that to her. I sent my correspondence with Jim Wadman, and she told me as of 3:45 this afternoon that I have certainly fulfilled my FOA requirements. So that account has been closed, those funds have been taken care of. It was closed in July, and when Jim came, that cash of 55 cents was still available, and he suggested it be deposited into a town account if the committee had ceased. They chose to disband when they learned that their committee was going to have to go through, as did the 150th, so they closed that account at that point in time.
So there is no recreation committee as of now?
As of July. And Brenda did say she'd be happy to speak with anybody to clarify what her job was and what she was researching.
Well, to see that such a committee doesn't take it upon themselves to do something like this, ignoring the necessity for insurance, I think it would be a good idea to have this article to ensure that that wouldn't happen. So I guess I'll make a motion that we accept that article.
Second it. It's been moved and seconded to include this article in the town meeting warrant. All those in favor? 2 in favor, 1 opposed. Next item. The town will vote to require all public meetings as defined by state law in the town of Columbia Falls to be held in a handicapped, accessible public space, and further to require notice of all such meetings to be posted in the town office 7 days in advance of the meeting date. This is to say no public meetings may be held in private homes because all citizens have a right to attend these meetings and should feel free to do so. This article is to take effect immediately if it is approved by the town meeting.
I've been the first one to speak on the previous, so I guess I'll speak on this one too. I fail to see the need of that.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to
Yes.
state my reason?
Yes.
The town, I think, is obligated, any committee meeting is a public meeting. And any public meeting is supposed by the Freedom of Access and Americans with Disabilities Act is required to be in a space where any person can come to that public meeting. And I think that's important. And for example, if I were on a committee and I invited that committee to meet at my home is not handicapped accessible. And if there happened to be someone in town who wasn't very fond of me, I'm sure there are no people like that, then they might not feel comfortable coming to my home to a public meeting that was held there. So that was my reason for putting it there. I mean, it's just as easy to meet in a public space as it is to meet in a private space. And that's...
But, John, my way of thinking is that in a town like ours, where everybody knows everybody else, is there really a need for that?
Aren't we taking away our small town
Yeah.
friendly,
Yeah.
meet with a neighbor type of thing? I mean, this isn't a city.
Sorry.
Tony?
I just want to say that John might be 100% right. A couple of things he's had in the last few months he hasn't been right, but maybe he is right tonight. If the committee is an elected committee, I believe he is right. He is right in saying what he is. But not a group of volunteers that is trying to help the town, using sometimes within a 2-week period, 40 hours of their own time freely to help volunteer to do good for the town. But we're just volunteers. We're not elected officials. We are just a group of volunteers trying to do a good thing for the town. If he happens to be speaking about my house, and I don't know if he is, I don't think he is. My house, I've had many handicapped people in my house before, so they can get in and out, if that's what he's talking about, but unlike his house. But just something I wanted to let people know, and I've seen it kind of happen in the last few months here in Columbia Falls. I came from a little bit bigger place down south, and I saw the same thing happening that's been happening here in the last few months, happened many years ago down there. Just more and more, let's put this ordinance in, let's do this. Pretty soon, the little town of Columbia, you wouldn't even recognize it. You won't. It's happening pretty fast here now. You're not going to recognize what this nice little village was at one time. When I first came up here 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I knew Lewis Emerson, and I said to him on a Saturday, on a Labor Day weekend, I said, Lewis, I got to build up, Rick wants to build me a barn up back here, and I said, it's going to be a little bit closer to the road than is probably required. What do I do? And he goes, don't worry. I said, well, I'm only here. I got to go. I'm heading out to San Diego Monday morning or Tuesday morning. On Labor Day, Lewis got the planning board, or whatever they were, which was Phil here, Grace, and Jerry, together on a holiday in the middle of the day, and called me up and said, if you can bring me down a sketch, tell me what you want, down to the town hall, on a holiday now. Opened up the doors, we went in, sat down, and they said, geez, yeah, let's go out, let's all jump in the cars, go out and look at it. Yeah, fine, you put your garage right there. If the builder says that's it, good. Guess what? We're going to lose all that, folks. That's what really made the town, to me, that made the town attractive. I mean, now it seems to be, what I've seen in the last few months, several months, maybe a year, is just what happened down south. And I'll tell you, people won't like what they're going to see if it continues in that vein. That's all I have to say.
I guess my feeling on the whole thing is you keep putting these restrictions on volunteers, you're not going to have any
Right.
volunteers.
Who's going to do it?
That's what we've seen happen in the fire department.
And that's exactly what I'm telling about down south. People will not step up because they're basically afraid to. Not to say that everything the person is bringing up isn't correct. I don't mean to say it isn't. Maybe it is correct, but you have to be careful.
Yes, Pete.
I think where John might be going with this, if there's a committee established with people, and you go into a private residence, and that's a very comfortable setting. But say if those people who are having the meeting don't personally like you. Do you now this is a town committee, you as a person are going to walk into a home that you don't have friendly acceptance going in, and then me as a resident, do I feel comfortable in going into someone's home who might not like me personally or whatever it may be? If you're in a public space, you're meeting on public grounds, public town community, public space. Because there again, people, but, people might not all like each other or whatever, and yes, we all should be working for the common goal, but truly, if there's a committee meeting at someone's house who doesn't like me, do you really think I'm gonna be welcomed and accepted into that private home? Even though it's a town committee and all of that, town business, am I really gonna be accepted into the home and be comfortable going into a private residence? That's why I think that's where John too, is going with this article. Just my opinion.
And then in all fairness, the 150th meetings were held, in a public place. I know people who attended that meeting who were not made to feel welcome. Papers were handed to everybody but them. And that was a public place where people didn't like them and didn't accept them. So I think if you have personality conflicts, you're going to have those, whether you meet in public or whether you meet in somebody's home.
Excuse me. I'd just like to say that I attended all of the 150 committee meetings, and the one overwhelming thing that strikes me when I look back at those meetings is the fact that Chuck Hammond made everyone feel welcome. Everyone sat around one table. They didn't have to sit over here in the bleachers unless they wanted to. And everything, all of the information was shared. And people were allowed.
Excuse me, but that's not true. I was at that meeting, and I was not felt welcome. There were only 2 people at the table that spoke to me. So I was just as unwelcome as anybody could be. But that's okay. That's the public setting. They're not going to like you any better if you're in public or in private. If they don't like you, they don't like you.
I wasn't.
All right. What's your pleasure, gentlemen? Allow it or not? I make a motion that this article not be included in the town warrant for 2014.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded that this article not be allowed on the town warrant for 2014. All those in favor? 3 in favor. One more, to see if the town will allow the Board of Selectmen, the administrative assistant, and the treasurer to set up guidelines following state rules, regulations, and statutes concerning the fees, time, and procedures for the right-to-know request coming into the town office.
I guess I'll follow suit. I don't see the need of that either.
Let's follow
If
the
that's
state
follow
law.
state regulations,
Right.
why
We're
do you
not
need it?
now. We're not now. We're
Oh,
following
no.
the policy written by the town now. That's why I've been presenting to you,
Oh, I see.
not very well, unfortunately, but to try to operate in that manner so that we do follow state law, and then there won't have to be guidelines set up.
We'll just refer back to state law,
State
just
law.
like we did in one of these articles.
Right.
I'll make a motion this article not be included on the town warrant for 2014.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded not to include this article on the town warrant for 2014. All those in favor? 2 in favor, 3 in favor, none opposed. That's the last one.
Yes.
Opposed?
I submitted one for the Sanford building that didn't get in.
That was financial, wasn't it?
Not really.
I have it in the office.
It wasn't, I mean, it's only financial, not this year, but anyway, it doesn't matter, it's a matter.
I had planned on presenting it for tomorrow night at the budget meeting.
They told me to bring it
Because
back
had to
tonight.
do- Okay.
Just bring it up.
What's that?
Do want
You
to
told me
go
to
get
bring it back to you tonight, so I did, but
Go.
can't get her to do nothing. Get her mad, whatever. Like that. Jim?
Yes.
While she's doing that, if I could say, the meetings that we have in homes, at every meeting that we do have, we ask around the whole table if anybody else wants to have one, and it always ends up, it was at Dick's house all the time prior, and then just happens to be at my house now, but anybody else that's on the committee is surely welcome to have one. Actually, it would be easier on my dog if I did, but anybody that ever wants to come, and I always say all are invited every time, even if I dislike that guy more than anything in the world, still he would be treated professionally if he came to a meeting and wanted to help out in any way with any of the efforts we do. We always need people to help, as you'll see when we get up here. They would never be treated with disrespect.
Philip, wake up. What's your thoughts on planning board rotation? Well,
I think they should be rotated 1, 2, and 3, get started, just, or whatever you want, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How many do we have now, 5?
We got 5. Just what the bylaws said in the town, but when I went up to Ellsworth for a meeting, and a lawyer from MMA was there, she suggested in small towns to go with 3 and 2, 3 and 2 alternates, because she says you don't have enough people there, and you had a major thing from the one stir up stink, you didn't have a big majority there of the members, you needed a good rate. And she suggested 3 and 2.
We have to change that.
I don't know, we could change, we could put something in after to change the bylaws, to read that way.
Mike's article, to see what sum of money the town will raise and appropriate for maintenance of town roads, to see what recommended 20,000.
That's a money one.
To see if the town will authorize the selectmen to borrow up to 300,000 for the groundwork and construction of a new sand salt building. Payments to be approximately $20,900 for 20 years. You're talking the second article.
Yes, the first one's going to have to be in there anyway.
So what that article would authorize us to do is borrow up to $300,000 and make payments of $20,900 or whatever would equal up to that for 20 years.
Yeah. That's for the completion of the building groundworks and everything. With the money we have to pay CES for the completion of their next part of that would cost $37,000 just for their part. That's overseeing the whole procedure. We already have that money.
Okay.
We already have that money. That was at $60,000 that we had for the whole thing.
We got what, 47,000?
40 something left. 47. So.
At 40-something, they said it's going to be 37.
47.
Something like that. So, I mean, that part would be CES's part of the overseeing of the buildings and so forth. I just wanted to know if you want to put it in there. That would be
Again, I seem to be doing a lot of talking, but again, I think it should be left up to the people, that they should decide whether they want to do that, and they can't decide unless there's an article.
So you want to put the article in?
Yes, I'll make the motion to put that article in.
It's been moved and seconded to allow Article 2, which is to see if the town will authorize the selectmen to borrow $300,000 for the groundwork and construction of a new sand salt building. Payments would be approximately $20,900 a year for 20 years. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed. Getting back to the planning board rotation, do you want to draft that article?
She already does.
Okay.
No.
With the guidance of the selectmen.
Yeah, and MMA.
All right.
If we've got to change a
we always had 3. Then, a year ago, or 2 years ago, whenever it was, a year ago it was, they presented us with bylaws, we'd all been trying to find, and no one said they had them, and I guess they had them right in the office. Someone doubted them, and they said it's 5, and they had to have 5 members. So when we were down there at that meeting, DRI at the time had 11 members, and another town had 17 members, and she said, oh, no, 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 no. She said, you fellows are setting yourself up for a lawsuit. She said, most towns, she said 3 and 2. Some of the bigger towns, Ellsworth, they suggested 7 and 3, you know, and that's quite a lot bigger town than we are.
3 members and 2 alternates.
That's right. So they had a big thing coming up, like a housing development or something, the alternates want to set in on it.
So the first part of that article would have to be to change the bylaws,
Yeah.
to read 3 and 2, and then to set up the
And right
rotation.
now, you have 5, right?
Yeah, that's, we only had 1 year that way. Oh, we've been 3, but they put it in for 5, so.
So what you do is elect 1 member for 3 years, 1 member for 2, and 1 member for
That's right,
1,
it's set up and.
so that it would
Well,
rotate
yeah.
like the selectmen do.
He was always appointed, but they told us they had to be elected, so.
So write the article, if they pass that, write it to elect a member, a member, a member.
If they don't, they'll go private.
Right.
1, 2, 3. Who's who?
So we're going to include that article? I make a motion we do so.
Second it.
We moved and seconded to include an article dealing with planning board rotation and number of members. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed. Now we come to the biggie, delivery of town reports. What's our pleasure going to be on that? Are we going to deliver them?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
May I ask something? At our last meeting, we discussed the town reports, and we recommended that we would be willing to deliver them for you, to collect the fee for to go towards the Union Hall. And at that time, we talked about there are some town guidelines for a town meeting, some little booklets, and we would be willing to package them up with it and deliver them all at the same time. So, just for you to think about. If you've got somebody else doing it, fine, but we would be willing to do it for you.
You have to contact MMA to get those booklets. That's where they send me a few
Okay.
that can be, but it's contact MMA and say they're getting the booklet.
They're also online, you can download them.
I'll withdraw. I had my hand raised because I was going to volunteer to do it at no cost as my last official act.
Well, I don't.
But I'll withdraw that, and instead I'll volunteer to help you people.
Good. You and I can run around again.
Well, one of the things I wondered about, things are tight and money's tight and all that, you don't have to deliver them, and you print a lot less of them. You have to have them available 3 days before town meeting. But you have to, they can be available at the town office. And if somebody wants them, they can come pick them up. So instead of printing some, I mean, you know when you've delivered them, because we've delivered them for years, and they used to deliver them for free. Harold Wakefield did it for umpteen years. And you know really when you give some of these people, they're either going to use it for fire starter or whatever they use, line the bird cage. So it's really crazy with the money that we have is to print all these if nobody really wants them. So for 1 year, it'd be kind of interesting to see if they want them, come and get them. Or if somebody calls and they can't. I mean, again, small town. Somebody calls Nancy and says, geez, I'd like to have one, but I can't get down there. Then you know that she's going to see that they get that. I mean, that's just how it is. But, you know, printing costs and paper costs and the copier kind of had a little issue today, so
That'll be on the budget meeting for tomorrow night.
I agree with you, Lenny, and especially the part about the small town. This is a small town. I want to keep it a small town. Although if we had some major industries come in here and offer all kinds of jobs, I'd sacrifice it. But I, for one, have looked forward over the years, even though I wasn't always as old as I am now, to have those
And that was
delivered
gonna
to
be
my
my next
house.
thing, that's because you're an old person. As am I mean, I was in high school the same time you were, so I know we're all old. But the young people aren't like that one, they don't care as much. I mean, and you know, it's all sit and see who didn't pay their taxes, that was the most important thing back then, you know.
But thinking of saving money, Lenny, we just give this building away, we're saving all kinds of money there. Seems that we ought to be able to afford paying, the Union Hall people for living.
Well, I suppose that's probably true, although somebody did tell me today they saw in Chuck's column that there was a group of people that volunteered for everything. So I suggest that let them volunteer to deliver them for free. And everybody'd be
I
happy.
think part of that group is doing it.
Not for free.
But that's
Said
going
volunteer.
right back in the kitty.
When do they have to go out? When is the day that they go?
They have to be available, what, 3 days
3 days.
prior, but anytime 3 days prior, I would think.
That's March.
They usually do it the weekend
March
before, don't
18th
they?
is town meeting.
March 18th.
Week and a
So
half.
I will have them
Week and a
ready
half before.
by the 13th because
Okay, all right,
the office will be closed on Friday, so they'll be ready on the 13th.
okay.
Then the office closed on Friday, you got Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no one can get it away.
We need a motion to make that legal.
We get to see it before it goes to
If
print.
so,
Oh, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, we get to see it before it goes out. What, 150th committee delivered them last year, correct?
And the
Couple, 2 years.
Couple of years.
And the people delivering that are volunteering, they're not getting any of the money.
Right, it goes to
Just like
2 day, 2
volunteers
committee.
doing this will be volunteers,
Right.
Union Hall, so.
Yeah, I think, I make a motion that we let the Union Hall / Town Hall Committee deliver the reports.
Second one.
Been moved and seconded to do so. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.
How much do they get paid?
120 last year.
120?
What it
That
was
sound
last
reasonable?
year.
Plus mileage.
It was,
Any other new business? No? Anything you folks can think of?
Meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's right. We have a budget meeting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock here. Having no other new business, we'll move on to officers and committees. Lenny Weaver is an
Yes.
officer, not a committee.
Officer, not a committee. I won't be able to be at the budget meeting tomorrow night, so I've got a class, but one of the things, as a treasurer, kind of remind you, tighten the budget. Things are tight, I'm not sure where revenue sharing is going to go. We haven't had to borrow in a few years, and that's really good, except old Mr. Sand and Salt Shed over there wants to change that, but anyway, and I'm not sure how many of you know, but recently the treasurer's office has been moved into the administrative office. We're going to use that room for storage. So since I've been in there, I guess I was unaware, and I'm sure a lot of you are, how much time Nancy wastes finding answers, researching, making phone calls and emails regarding requests from one person and the right to know question. At the end of January, I was in the office and she took a call from the Attorney General's office. And she was told that Pam Look, wife of Selectman Jay Look,
Excuse me.
had filed a
Ma'am?
formal complaint with the state of Maine accusing Nancy of failing to turn over documents to her that Nancy did not have or had never
Order.
seen. Mrs. Look presented several requests to Nancy for months about an account that was never a town account, and Nancy had answered them in a timely manner. She's done many hours of research, but Mrs. Look
Mr.
told
Chairman,
them that woman at the Attorney
Let her
General's
have her
office...
say, you'll have yours.
it's out of order. This is supposed to be something pertaining to her job as a treasurer. Is that not right? She's not under citizens' concerns, is she?
No, she's not.
Okay.
right.
Mrs. Look told the woman in the Attorney General's office that Nancy was not forthcoming with these documents.
Anna,
Thank you.
you've got a concern, come in again. Tony?
I'll try to make this quick. Grant. The grant writer has 3 grants she's working on over the next several months. They are the Davis, the Belvedere, and the Morton Kelly Fund. Water and sewer. We have started looking into the water and the sewer work that's ongoing. Town-raised funds. The committee recommends that the selectmen vote on using the remaining town-raised funds for the upcoming interior work. And as you can see, I highlighted that in red, and I'll move on to the next, and you can go back to that for discussion. Interior construction phase 1, the big bid package that I dropped off at your houses this week for the interior work is complete, and the committee has voted to recommend that this go out for bid. Again, I highlighted that in red for the vote. I wanted to just let you know, though, and I don't think I did in that note, that there was probably 80 hours between 3 people to put that package together. There was a lot of work, a lot of measuring, a lot to it. A lot of thought went into it. Town reports, we already hit on that. And the events committee, I sent you a letter in the last 2 weeks to give you some time to think this issue over. Certainly nothing that needs to be decided tonight, but the sooner the better. And, with great hope, the hall will be usable real soon. We have had interest from persons in this community and willing to volunteer on this project. So that is that. Next Union Hall Restoration Committee will be at my house March 6th at 6 p.m. and all are invited. That is it. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
What are the town-raised funds? What are left? What is left?
Approximately 12,000. It's a little bit over. If you paid for the last construction, 12,000.
And you'd like for that remaining 12,000 to be put into phase 1 that you submitted to us this week?
No, that's phase 2. Phase 1's all done.
Phase 2, that's what, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Phase 2 all done. And that package that I gave you basically is everything. When that is done, the only thing that's going to need to be done inside that hall is painting. That's it. Painting and new work. Everything in that package, the committee wants to walk out of that room completed. Inside of it.
Tony, did that include
Yeah.
did that include the floor sanding? It didn't, that's separate issue.
That's separate. No, that's correct.
So he's talking about
The actual new construction.
Yes. Thank you, Rebecca.
So those funds have been raised and appropriated and are in that account. Then I'll make a motion that we do use that to fund phase 2.
I'll second the motion. Been moved and seconded to allow remaining funds to go towards the upcoming interior work at the Union Hall / Town Hall. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed. I guess I'm confused. Interior construction phase 1, I thought.
I'm
that already
sorry,
went
yeah.
out.
Sorry, typo. That should be 2. Sorry about that. Copy and paste, you know.
That's what threw me a bit.
Little dyslexia, I know too.
Did you, I didn't get a chance to look at that yet.
Yep, and I don't, that's why I say you may want more time to look at that. It's totally up to you, fellows.
But you would like to get that out to bid before long.
Sooner the better, yes. If, and I don't know, maybe this is against the rules, law, state law, whatever, but if you wanted a walkthrough to show what we're doing, I don't know if you can do that, but I'm willing to take the time to do it if you wanted, and it could do that. Couldn't it?
We could do it as individuals, but
Yep.
I'm not sure all three could.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm retired, so I have the time.
I guess I'd like to do that to get a chance to look at
Yeah. And just call me, and we'll set, each individual call me, and we'll set up a time.
That's part of the small town thing, though, that the three of you would have to go individually to walk through a town building. Does not make sense that you wouldn't be allowed in the same town building.
But you could be 1 minute apart. One passing, one going up the steps, and one going down.
Maybe go say hi.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Tony.
Yep, you're welcome. On the
yes.
events committee, you're gonna think about that one too, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Citizens, John Tibbetts.
Mr. Chairman, I gave you a paper on the 150 committee.
Yes.
Do you have that?
Yeah, but that's not on the agenda. That's not under what you were going to talk about.
No, it is not. Are you going to take up that paper?
Not tonight. Not as far as I'm concerned. If we have shut one person down because they're not on the agenda, we can't take you out of order for that. We can take that up at the next meeting.
Typical.
I'm trying to use everybody the same, John.
This is a committee, and this is simply a request to make the committee report right in the town report. It's not criticizing anyone or causing extra work for anyone or anything of that sort. I would think you might want to ask what your fellow board members would think about that, because this perhaps would be the last nice thing the town of Columbia Falls would do for the 150 committee volunteers, Mr. Chairman?
Nice thing?
You know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't. Why don't you fill me in? I'd like to know what we've done
This
that's been
committee
spared.
has suffered terribly
Okay.
at the hands of town officers. And I don't, it's not fair for me to go on and speak if Lenny couldn't speak before.
I asked you to speak. Go ahead and speak.
My apologies. I simply brought this here to you, asking that we clarify the business on the report and make sure that it's correct. I don't know why.
We have already accepted a report that we're going to include in the town report.
Yes, but if you have looked at this.
I have looked at that.
It needs the final unexpended balance needs to be corrected and should be corrected, because we want the citizens of the town to be properly informed. And the final balance is the balance that we had on the report we gave you, minus the $775 that was expended to give Gloria Haywood the profit on the book. And that happened after we submitted that report to you. And I don't know whether Jim Waterman submitted a bill for the time that the three committee members spent with him, but if you did receive a bill for that, that should be noted as well. I'm only trying to have that shown properly in the town report.
But you wanted it shown properly before, and you were very insistent that we accept it when we accepted it. Now you want to change it.
How could I possibly know what was going to be expended
I don't know that, but your committee was very insistent on getting that accepted by the selectmen. If you want to change it, I guess we're open to that.
We're asking for an addendum to it. Just so that the citizens are properly informed that instead of over 5,000, there is 4,000 something unexpended balance that the town has, and it would be nice to inform the citizens also that the selectmen approved spending money for a flagpole for Union Hall. I don't think that's an extraordinary request.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Are we discussing everything that's on here, or just that one point?
Just that one point, as far as I'm concerned.
I thought we already approved that.
I thought we did too, Bun. That's why I'm trying to clarify.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Quick question. I know that the report that the gentleman awarded was $5,300 and some. And then we gave that report and that was accepted. Now, after the fact, gentleman approved to spend that $775 proceeds to Warrior. So saying that, the amendment would be the additional $775, because then our figure would, on that, with the amendment of $775, because the report we gave was after everything was over, but we recommended the $775 to go to Warrior. Of course, our report's not going to show the $775 for a reduction, and that's really all the amendment is. I mean, if you want our report to show one thing and their town report to show the other, minus, a difference of $775, that's where the amendment would come into play. That's all. Your call, I mean, so the figures are the same, but it's up to yourself if you want to,
This
have it
was
that way or not.
just a matter of I was treasurer of committee at the end, and it's just a matter of wanting to show the citizens of the town a fair report. And when we gave what we thought was a final report that was accepted by you, I don't think anyone's at fault for presenting that report, and are asking that we simply note that there were one or more other expenses.
Pleasure.
Would you read just what we're dealing with?
The selectmen voted to include in the annual town report the final financial report of the 150 Celebration Steering Committee. Since that report was created, there should have been one more debit to that account, and that would be the amount of the profit on Gloria Haywood's history book, which was $775. There is only one other possible debit to that account, and that would be the bill for the visit to Jim Wadman's office by committee members if such a bill was rendered. I don't know if there was a separate bill.
Has not yet.
Has not yet. We request that the selectmen add an addendum to our final financial report that simply states that one or two debits mentioned above and the final unexpended balance. We also request that selectmen add to the addendum the statement, the 150 Celebration Steering Committee has recommended that the selectmen have approved expending out of the unexpended balance in the 150 account an amount of money necessary to purchase and install a flagpole on the lawn in front of Union Hall and to place on the pole a plaque commemorating the 150th anniversary of the town of Columbia Falls.
Again, we've already dealt with it.
That's what I thought.
But if it's necessary, I'll make the motion that we do it again.
You haven't printed the town report yet, have you?
No.
And so you haven't done this before.
We accepted the report.
Yes.
We authorized the buying of a flagpole
Right.
and the plaque.
But will anyone, any citizen of the town know that when they see the original final report? They will not, will they?
There again, I think we can go back to the small town. They'll probably know it before we get home.
Well, if you feel comfortable with that, then the only thing I would ask you would be simply to correct the final unexpended balance, because it would be minus the 775. And I think that would be only decent to do.
Move this along, I'll make the motion that we do that. We'll take care of the addendum for the 775, which we've already voted to do.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that's still not gonna give you the final balance,
Well,
till you have Jim Wadman's figure in there.
true. We may never know that figure. That may come as just in the bill. I don't think he'll separate that out, or at least he hasn't. He will separate it out? Okay. Been moved and separated. Been moved and separated. Been moved and seconded. That we add this addendum to the original report that we accepted on such and such a date. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.
So now that Mr. Tibbetts has been audited.
Yes, you
allowed
may
to
speak.
And Mrs.
You may.
I may speak?
Yes, you may.
I say what I was saying?
Yes.
Okay. So I will carry on. So there's no record for this account, but Mrs. Lowe told the woman at the Attorney General's office Nancy was not forthcoming with these documents. And instead of bringing it to the board, she contacted the state and filed a formal complaint against our administrative assistant for withholding information. And to me, this is wrong. Nancy Bailey's done an outstanding job since she was appointed by the Board of Selectmen and elected by the townspeople. She's efficient, organized, pleasant, and does her very best for every citizen in this town. Yes, she's my daughter, and if I have to be biased, I might be, but I don't have to be. These are true facts. I know there's not one citizen that she's mistreated or disrespected in the 2.5 years she's worked in the town of Columbia Falls. She's even pleasant and professional with those individuals trying to sully her reputation. So to call the Attorney General's office and accuse her of wrongdoing appears to be unfounded and malicious. Mrs. Look caused a person from the state Attorney General's office to question Nancy's integrity, honor, and truthfulness. Obviously, it affects her work. She spent many more hours calling people, and there are 502 residents in this town, so it didn't affect just Nancy. It affects every one of the 501 of the rest of us that Nancy's supposed to be working and helping. She wants to clear her name, so of course she has spent many more hours trying to track down information on this closed account, and it puts another black mark on our town. And my question to the board is, how much time and effort do you expect the administrative assistant to spend chasing down a closed account to satisfy one person? How long is this bullying and harassment by Pam going to be allowed? And Mr. Grant pointed out that our administration account is already overdrawn, so how much more of the taxpayers' money are we supposed to be spending to satisfy one person? And Mrs. Look doesn't have to offer a reason to ask for this. She can do it just because she wants to. And I guess that's more than one question, but I think these are all valid questions. Gentlemen?
Thank you. Now, there was one more thing here on John's thing. We also request that no person be permitted to place in the annual town report any additional report, narrative, or commentary on the 150th celebration. The committee would also request the Selectmen to vote this evening to honor the 3 requests we have made and enumerated above. I'll make a motion that we don't allow that last part because I think that's taking away people's freedom of speech. And it's only an opinion. That's how I feel on that. How do you other two feel?
Alan, I understand where you're coming from. But then again, I've listened to you tonight vote at least 2 times against articles where people have the right to express their opinion. Haven't I?
Yeah.
Hmm?
It's only an opinion. We all have them.
Again, I'm going to make the motion that we leave it to the people to decide whether they want that article to happen or not.
Hearing no second on my motion, I will withdraw it. Now you may make your motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we accept that request as an article for the people to decide.
That's not
I don't
what
think that's what he's
says.
asking.
He's asking no town officials or anybody to write anything about the 150, no commentary about the
Then
town
I agree
officials.
with Alan then, unless it's an article, it can't be done.
That's not a place for commentary anyway.
Seems so we've gone over the articles we're going to allow, other than our ordinary articles. I don't think anything else is going in.
Okay, yeah. Then there's no problem.
Well, there should be no opinionated writings in the town book anyway.
The town report is the report of the selectmen, so I guess that would say that the selectmen are not trusted to put out a product that is
Don't you
sufficient
think
for the
if
town.
this is my 5th time around, next year will be my 6th year, I haven't written on their report. If I write a report, it's going to be opinionated. I don't care how you look at it. It would be my opinion on how the town's going. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, the hour is late, and that is probably not terribly important, so why don't you just cross it off your list? That would be my suggestion.
Okay. You haven't even gotten to your original ones yet. Go ahead.
Well, do you want to...
Let's get it over with.
Okay, a while ago, I brought to your attention that I thought perhaps in view of what has happened in Jonesport with their cemetery, that possibly the transfer of the cemetery to Town Road to the town wasn't done legally or needed to be accepted by the town meeting. I was just bringing that up again. We have a town meeting coming up, and you might want an article to accept that, to make it legal.
We're already going to have that.
Good.
It would be nice, it would be really nice to be trusted to do your job the way you're supposed to do your job. It's been brought to people's attention. It's my job to carry that out, and it would be nice for somebody just to have a little bit of confidence that that's been taken care of. It happens week after week after week. Things that are supposed to be my job that I'm supposed to do get questioned over and over.
Mr. Chairman, I meant, I was not criticizing any individual. I was just bringing it up so that everybody forgets, and there's a lot to do. I'd just like to add one thing, since everybody's putting in. When I was treasurer of the town of Columbia Falls, I held in my hand a bank statement from a child savings bank that said Town of Columbia Falls Recreation Committee. So no one can tell me that there was not accounts, and no one can tell me that the bank can't furnish those accounts. That I'm well aware of. But
Perhaps you'd like to, I'm going to give you that to review from when you were treasurer as well, please.
That is what the bank told us, that they did not issue statements. Now, maybe they did, but...
Well, they certainly did, because I held them in my hand. And I'm not aware of that. I noticed in looking over some grants that the Indian Township Passamaquoddy Reservation received a rural development grant for $37,600 for salt and sand shed. And although I don't know how they're going to build one for that, but wouldn't it be good if we looked into some of those things to see if there might be some money? That's just a suggestion.
We already have, John, several times.
Yeah, but, well, you have to put in an application each year because those grants aren't...
All you gotta do is make a phone call to see if there's any available. There's only one person that does that in the state.
Is there, and at the risk of being thought to be critical, I brought up the business about voting and residency, and some member of the select board suggested yet MMA's definition of that. I know that residency is a requirement for voting. One must live in the town. One may leave the town if, for example, I had a job, my job required me to go to Connecticut for a year, I could maintain my residency here. But residency is defined as a place, especially a house, where a person lives or resides. And I know that Nancy mentioned the intention to return. That would be return to a home where one intends to live. But residency is a tantamount, a requirement for voting in town affairs. Was MMA asked about that?
I read directly from the MMA that residents who did not have to live in that town.
That, I believe, is not true, respectfully, Nancy. I don't mean to, I'd just like to see it checked. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is that all you have to speak about?
That's
All right. I make a motion, we adjourn. Moved and seconded, we adjourn until March 10th, 2014.
I haven't got a backup line, don't run into it.
a good idea, isn't it?